And welcome to Stakelbeck on Terror. So, how about that Arab Spring? Is it everything you hoped it would be? Freedom, democracy, rule of law, and apparently the right to attack American embassies and murder American diplomats. What we've seen across the Middle East and North Africa over the past few weeks is nothing less than a complete collapse of Obama administration policies and the massive weakening of America's standing in the region. In that neighborhood, only the strong horse is respected. Unfortunately, we are now viewed as a pony. Just look at the Obama administration's insane, embarrassing response to the attacks on our embassies in Egypt, Libya, and in pretty much every other country where Allah presides. It's all happening spontaneously, they tell us, because of some ridiculously low-budget 13-minute film about Muhammad that's been on YouTube for months. That's the White House's story, and they are sticking to it. Even though the Libyan government says the attack on our embassy in Benghazi and the murder of Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans was a pre-planned, well-thought-out terrorist attack. And despite the fact that the al-Qaeda-linked terrorist who killed Stevens and the others just so happened to be carrying rocket-propelled grenade launchers and automatic weapons when they showed up to this spontaneous protest. Oh, and despite the fact that al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri released a video just one day before the embassy attack calling for revenge for the killing of a Libyan al-Qaeda leader. And did I mention that the attacks occurred on the anniversary of 9/11? Some heavy symbolism there for jihadists, right? But don't worry. Despite all of this, this administration tells us the attacks all happened out of thin air thanks to that darn YouTube clip. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an insult to our intelligence. The film was just a pretext for an all-out jihadist assault on America. And it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see it. Come on! Perhaps even more insulting is the fact that these Muslim riots are being used to push for a crackdown on the First Amendment. That's right. On the heels of all the violence supposedly caused by this film, Muslim leaders and political bodies around the world, including at the UN, are now pushing even harder to make any criticism of Islam a crime. It's hate speech, they say. And the scariest thing about it is the Obama administration seems receptive to the idea. It's all part of our appeasement strategy with the Muslim world. Give them what they want, and they'll leave us alone. Heck, let's give them the blind sheikh, one of the most notorious terrorist masterminds in the world. No, really. The Obama administration is now reportedly considering transferring the blind sheikh, Omar Abdel Rahman, out of an American prison and into Egyptian custody. That's the same blind sheikh who plotted to blow up New York City landmarks, had a hand in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and served as a spiritual advisor to Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 hijackers. Yeah, that blind sheikh. Islamists around the world, including Egypt's new Muslim Brotherhood president Mohammed Morsi, our friend, are demanding that we release this notorious terrorist. And we just might do it. Anything goes in a second term, right? No restraints. Actually, there is one restraint. President Obama just doesn't have the time to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu. At a time when Iran is close to acquiring a nuclear bomb that it will use against Israel, our president just couldn't fit the Israeli prime minister into his busy schedule, which included meetings with Beyoncé and Jay-Z, an appearance on David Letterman, and apparently this month, a meeting with the Muslim Brotherhood's radical president, Mohammed Morsi. But sorry, Bibi, no time for you, our greatest ally, America. This is madness. But thank God we have a leading expert here this week to help us make some sense of it all. Michael Widlanski is a former New York Times reporter who has advised the Israeli government. He's also author of one of my favorite books of 2012, Battle for Our Minds, Western Elites and the Terror Threat. Pick up the book and check out our interview. Well, Michael, welcome back.
Always a pleasure.
Great to have you. Always great to have you, my friend. You know, as we sit here, it's the 11th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Where are we right now in this struggle against Islamic jihadists? Are we winning this thing?
We've had some victories, but unfortunately the overall picture is that we're even more complacent, more vulnerable than we were before 9/11. We had a short rise after 9/11. We learned, we got ready, and especially in the last 4 years, we've sunk back below where we were at 9/11. People cannot even talk about radical Islam inside the U.S. federal government. They're being blacklisted. People who lecture on the subject have been pushed out. The Obama administration has given aid and comfort to the Arab Islamic terror enemy.
Michael, I have to stop you there. He got Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
He's a foreign policy genius. We're winning. Hey, we got bin Laden. But it's a lot deeper than just Osama bin Laden, right?
It's a lot deeper than Osama bin Laden, and it's also quite hypocritical.
Yeah.
The people who got Osama bin Laden were working at it for 13, 14 years. It even started with Bill Clinton. You have to give him credit for the fact that he identified bin Laden as an enemy. George Bush certainly said wanted dead or alive.
Sure.
We know that several people in the CIA didn't help Bush get bin Laden. George Tenet said when George Bush wanted to get him with a drone aircraft, over my dead body, the CIA doesn't do drone attacks. Nobody remembers that today. But it's important that they got bin Laden. The problem is that the Viper gave birth to a lot of other little serpents.
That's right.
And they're all out there. They're copycats all over. There are second-generation killers, people who've learned English as their native language, born in Britain, born in the U.S., and become radicalized. And we also have a lot of people who've been radicalized and converted to radical Islam in American and British prisons and in the military.
And then we have, Michael, the granddaddy of them all, the Muslim Brotherhood.
Jama'iyat al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun.
Yes, the Ikhwan, the brothers. Founded in 1928 in Egypt, and it seems, and like I said, these are really the forefathers of Al-Qaeda. We have Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. But we have this administration, to my mind, embracing the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and elsewhere. And you talk about it actually in your book, Battle for Our Minds, which I encourage everyone to pick up. This is a must-read, and it's just politically incorrect, which is the way we like it here on Stakelbeck on Terror.
Politically incorrect, but factually
More,
accurate.
Please. Exactly. Factually and meticulously footnoted, Michael. And you take them on over this embrace of the Brotherhood. What is the thinking behind this new image of the Muslim Brotherhood as a moderating, nonviolent force that we can deal with?
First of all, it's very important for an American audience to understand. They hear the name Brotherhood and they say, oh, Brotherhood, let's all be brothers. What a nice name. The word in Arabic is Ikhwan, and it refers to the phalanx, the vanguard of the Wahhabi killers in the 1916, 1918, 1920, the people who used to conquer territory and then carve up their enemies and throw their kidneys over the battlements. Hassan al-Banna, the Egyptian, gave his organization the name of these Wahhabi killers because he wanted to be like them. And they have always said that they want to overthrow all the Arab governments who were not Muslim enough. Why did they turn outwards to the U.S.? Because it's a nice, attractive target. It helps recruiting. It helps fundraising. That's what Osama bin Laden did. These people are all very, very similar, and they say that the Quran is their constitution, and they want to impose it.
And our Western elites, as you write about in your book, Battle for Our Minds, is it willful ignorance? I mean, is it just they're naive, they don't understand, or is it willful ignorance, willful blindness? They know what the Brotherhood's about, but yet they roll out the red carpet anyway.
It's a combination. Obviously, a lot of people who've never studied the Middle East, never studied Islam, can be naive. But when you're exposed to some of this and you don't want to look at what's going on, you're a journalist, you're a columnist at the New York Times, Tom Friedman. You're Fareed Zakaria, Time Magazine, CNN. You don't want to see this. You believe that once they get into power, they'll be pragmatic.
Yeah.
They'll be as pragmatic as the Ayatollahs have been in Iran. By the way, the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, took the writings of Sayyid Qutb, the chief ideologue of the Muslim Brotherhood, and had it translated into Farsi from Arabic because he admired his ideas.
Which were violent jihad. Sayyid Qutb, even more radical than Hassan al-Banna.
Absolutely.
A guy who inspired bin Laden, inspired Anwar al-Awlaki.
This is a man who visited the United States, thought that Western women were the devil, and decided there could be nothing like that. declared openly over and over again that Christians and Jews had to be killed. There was no place for them in the realm of Islam, Dar al-Islam.
And this is the Muslim Brotherhood's pivotal thinker who inspires the movement still today, Sayyid Qutb. People need to know this.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the thinker that was ignored by the man who was the head of the bin Laden unit at the CIA, Michael Scheuer. He didn't even know what his name meant.
Right.
He referred to his brother instead. It was like somebody being an expert on fascism talking about Barney Mussolini instead of Benito Mussolini. Right. He didn't know his elbow from the other part. There are a lot of people in the business who are naive. There are too many who are deliberately myopic. We call them Islamyopics. They don't want to see Islam, they don't want to see radical Islam, and they're Islamophiles, not Islamophobes. They love everything Islamic. And this administration, unfortunately, they're not the only administration that's been like this, but they're more than anybody else. Obama, Hillary Clinton, Valerie Jarrett, John Brennan. These are people who want to tell you that jihad means a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Come off it.
It's spiritual
really,
yoga.
That's right.
Well, Michael, leave it right there. We're going to come back much more after the break with Michael Widlanski, author of Battle for Our Minds. I want to talk a bit about Israel and what's going on there. Don't move. And welcome back. We're talking to Michael Widlanski, author of Battle for Our Minds. Michael, I'm pretty sure I know what your grade would be for the Obama administration in terms of foreign policy as a whole, and I'm pretty sure that grade would be rather low. What's your grade for President Obama when it comes to his handling and his relationship and his treatment of Israel?
Obama thought he was smart when he came into power. He was going to be tougher than the Palestinians on Israel. So the Palestinians got tougher too. There's a dead end, and now you have the Palestinians actually refusing now for 3 years to talk face to face with the Israelis unless somebody holds their hand in the room or they get permission from the Arab League.
Before Obama, they were talking.
That's right. That's right. In other
He
words,
has emboldened them.
Even if somebody believes in the so-called phony peace process, and you and I do not, but even if you do believe in it, he destroyed it. Yeah. Obama destroyed it with his own hands. And he's also basically uplifted Hamas. He's basically uplifted the Islamist regime in Turkey. He's basically uplifted the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. You can't get any worse than that.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's interesting you mentioned Turkey, Michael. According to reports, he talks to the Turkish President Erdogan more than any other world leader other than David Cameron. And that's telling because Erdogan is a hardcore anti-Israeli, anti-Israel Islamist, and I'd argue an anti-Western Islamist as well, who's only getting worse and worse.
He was his first foreign visit. His first major foreign visit was to Istanbul. And he considered Erdogan to be the moderator in talks between the United States and Iran. I mean, you got to be off your rocker to say something like that. You have 3 regimes in the world that want a caliphate. The Egyptian regime, the Turkish regime, and the Iranian regime. And they're all buddies of Obama, who basically did not push the Iranians very hard. He said he'd engage them. And now, only belatedly, he's allowed a certain amount of sanctions, and he's pretending as if he's being really tough with them.
Do you think it's a question of, well, 2 things about his potential reelection? Number one, I think if he gets reelected, Obama, why not open dialogue with Hamas? Hey, he's talking to the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas's parent organization. I would not be shocked to see him open dialogue with Hamas. But number 2, I'm wondering
it's
if...
It's already happening.
Back channels and everything.
That's
absolutely. Right. Hey, Hamas is the Brotherhood. We're talking to the Brotherhood everywhere else in the world. And with Iran, in a second Obama term, if Iran goes nuclear in the second term, hey, we can
Let me tell you something. I don't know if a lot of people know about this. Obama's top advisor is Valerie Jarrett, who speaks Farsi, and that's good, who was born in Iran, and that's fine. The day after the Bulgarian attack on Israeli tourists, the terror attack in Bulgaria that was engineered by Iran, Valerie Jarrett had a whole bunch of Iranian activists at the White House, and a senior White House official, we don't know who that was, but we can guess, said that what happened to the Israeli tourists was Iranian tit for tat for what the Israelis supposedly were doing to Iranian nuclear scientists. That's horrible.
Israel brought it on itself once again.
And you know what Obama means in Farsi? My friend Professor Moshe Sharon told me it's what the Iranians are saying. He is with us. That's what they are saying.
Well, Michael, I'm glad that you are with us and you're with America, you're with Israel. It's always great to have you, my friend. The book is called Battle for Our Minds. Can't encourage you enough to pick it up. Mike Widlanski, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.